Okay. So since last two lectures, we are discussing about virtual memory, and mainly we discuss paging with virtual memory. And then there are certain design concerns that we need to deal with. One of them is page replacement algorithms. And we started that also in the last lecture, but we'll continue here. So what are this? There are certain basic algorithms that are used for the selection of page to replace, and they are optimal, list recently used, first in, first out, and clock algorithm. So we will take this example and we will use the same example for understanding all those techniques, all those algorithms. And I hope you remember that last time we discussed optimal policy, which is something like theoretical and not practical. There are few students who have not mute themselves. Make sure that you have mute yourself. So in last lecture, we discussed optimal policy. Basically, it is a theoretical policy and cannot be implemented. It cannot be there practically. And but the purpose of this policy, that whatever result you get through this policy, that can be used to compare other policies that you may implement.
Progress.
Okay, Priyeshvi, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Can we do something that we can mute all of this? Because someone is, one or other one is trying to unmute and, disturbing. So please see if you can mute all of them.
Let me see the options.
Okay. So this optimal policy we already discussed, where we can see that manually we trace this example, and what we got is 3 page faults. With this example and using optimal policy, you get 3 page faults. And the aim of any of this algorithm is to minimize the page faults so that performance can be improved. And based on that, we discuss LRU. We also discuss LRU, where basically the page that is going to be replaced is the page which is not been referenced since long. Okay, the page which is not used or referenced since longest time, that is going to be replaced. And the conclusion on this policy, that it is difficult to implement, because what is the problem with this, that every page that is being referred, you need to mark, you need to timestamp that page, and then you need to check every time. You need to check all the pages, which is the list recently used based on that timestamp. So definitely it is going to add some overhead, and that is going to make it complex and difficult to implement. And this is the same example that we traced with the help of using LRU strategy. And you can see that, I hope you remember that we traced this example. Okay. And we got 4 page faults. We got 3 page faults using optimal. Using LRU, we got 4 page faults. Again, though this is practical and this is possible to implement, but it is going to be more difficult. So the easiest one is FIFO. Instead of all those, instead of LRU and that, we can use FIFO strategy. It treats page frames allocated to a process as a circular buffer. And it is simplest replacement policy to implement, because you just have a pointer and which is going to be forwarded at every page faults, and whichever is being pointed, whichever frame is being pointed, that is going to be replaced. Very simple. So page that has been in memory the longest is replaced definitely. because now it is not the page that is not referred since long. It is not like that. It is the page which is there in the memory since long, or it is there in the for the longest time. So that is going to be replaced. But it is possible that the page which you have just replaced, which was there in the memory for the longest time, it may be needed again very soon. Okay. It is possible that it is going to be used in a very near future again. So that is one problem with this strategy. Now, if we trace the same example, let us see how many page faults we get. So you can see initially there is empty. So whenever you refer page number 2, it is added. Then page number 3, that is added. Then page 2, again it is there. So nothing to do. Page 1, that is going to be. Now page number 5 is being referred and there is no space. There is no empty or free frame. So which page will be replaced? Page 2, which is there since longest in the memory. So here you have a pointer. That's why this is going to be replaced. Now pointer comes to 3 because that is the next page which is there in the memory for the longest time. So after 5, then 2. So you can immediately see that as soon as you just replace 2 by 5, 2 is now needed again. So that definitely this is one page fault, this is another page fault, and 2 will be replacing 3. Then 4 will be replacing 1, another page fault. Now 5 is there, fine. 3 is not there. So 3 will be replacing 5. So page fault. So if you trace this example, here we get 6 page faults. Now when we compare this page faults in this small example with LRU and optimal, definitely this is not working better, right? This is, you can say, compared to those two strategies, this is worse. So you can see the FIFO policy results in 6 page faults. Note that LRU recognizes that pages 2 and 5 are referenced more frequently than another pages, whereas FIFO does not. That is the point. In LRU, because it is focusing on those pages which are least recently used, so they are not being used much, and that's why it is able to identify the page 2 and 5. They are frequently used, so it is not going to replace those pages. But in FIFO, there is no such provision. It is a blind strategy. Whichever is there in the queue for the longest time will be simply replaced. So that is the fourth policy that is what we are going to discuss next. That is clock policy. Now, what is this clock policy? Basically, it is going to scan all these pages in a clockwise manner. And for that, it uses an additional bit called use bit. Before we discuss that, let me just show you here. It is something like this. So this is a circular buffer. Okay, these are the pages which are candidate for replacement. These are the pages which are candidate for the replacement. So you can see, we can visualize these pages or frames in a circular buffer fashion. And this is the first frame in circular buffer of frames that are candidates for replacement. This is the first one. So from 0 to n-1, you have some n number. And now you can see with every page, there is one bit associated called use bit. If you can visualize, it is a use bit. Use bit equal to 1 denotes that, I mean, the meaning of that bit equal to 1 is that this page is recently used. That is the meaning of it. So what is this policy? When a page is first loaded in memory or referenced, every time when this page is referenced, this bit, use bit, is set to 1, just to denote that this page is recently used. When it is time to replace a page, the OS scans the set, flipping all ones to 0. Okay, so what it is going to do, whenever it starts scanning in this clockwise manner, whichever page it gets, if it is having use bit equal to 1, it will flip that to 0. And the first frame encountered with the use bit already set to 0 is replaced. So let me show you what it is doing. For an example, currently this is the pointer. Right now your pointer is at this point. It's like circular buffer. And here is your pointer. And now you need to replace some page. Okay, you want to bring some new page in. So which page you will replace? So you start with this, but this is use bit 1. It means this is recently used. So you just mark this use equal to 0 and move forward. Another use equal to 1, mark this use equal to 0, move forward. And this is the first page that you get with use equal to 0 bit, use bit value 0. So this page will be replaced. This page will be replaced. You can see here, this currently it is 556 page. That will be replaced by 727. And pointer will now point to the next page. Pointer will now point to the next page. That is clockwise. That is clock policy. And if we see in this fashion, the same example that we just discussed before, here asterisk shows that asterisk means use bit equal to 1. Asterisk means use bit equal to 1. This blue area means use bit equal to 0. And this pointer is the pointer currently, where it is right now pointing. So initially, page 2 is added. So it is set with use bit equal to 1. Then page 3 is added, that it is set equal to u. So then page 3, then use bit equal to 1. Now again page 2. So it is referred. So use bit still 1. Page number 1 is loaded. So with use bit equal to 1. And you can see that pointer is increasing, right? Like this. So 1 will be added here. Okay. And as soon as 1 is added at this point, pointer will be forwarded to next frame. So you visualize this as a circular buffer. Now page 5 needs to be added. Now what will happen? Currently pointer is at this point. Page 5 need to be added, but this 2 asterisk means use bit equal to 1. So this will be set to 0. Use bit will be set to 0 for this page. Pointer will come here. It will set this use bit equal to 0. Pointer will go forward. It will set this page use bit equal to 0 and pointer will be forwarded here. And now as this is the page whose use bit is already set to 0, it will be replaced by 5 page. And then it is marked with use bit equal to 1. And that's why you can see these 2 pages are in blue shade, because those pages use bit, they are set to 0. And pointer is now pointing to this point. So now if you need to replace any page, it will be straightforward this page, because it is having use bit equal to 0. But now, and that is exactly what is happening next. See, you can see here, after this page 2 is required, which is not there. So it is going to replace this page 3, because this is the first page which has use bit equal to 0. So it will be replaced. And pointer is pointing here. 4, which is not there, so it will replace this page and pointer is pointing here. Okay. And then finally 5 is there. Again, it is there. 3 is required, but 3 is not there. So again, it will scan whole this pages one by one, make their use bit equal to 0 and come at this point and change this page, replace this page 5 by 3 and mark it use bit equal to 1, and so on. So you can see here, this policy gives you page fault numbers that is equal to 5, which is between LRU and FIFO for this example, only for this example. So this is clock policy. And now if you see all these examples, I mean, all this strategy on the same example, optimal policy requires only 3 page faults. LRU generates 4, FIFO generates 6, and clock generates 5. But again, this is not always the ratio, right? It depends on page stream references and definitely what kind of example you have. But this is general comparison. This is a general comparison where x-axis is the number of frames allocated. How many frames are allocated? For example, in this example, we have allocated only 3 frames to the process. We have allocated only 3 frames to the process. And this is the page fault. Okay, this is page faults per 1000 references. This y-axis, it denotes page faults per 1000 references. And if you compare this 4 policy, if you use the same 4 policy, then you compare them, you can definitely see that optimal is the best one. LRU is the next best, clock next to that, and FIFO. And this is exactly what we get in our example also. This is the result that we get in our example also. But interesting thing is, as you increase the number of frames allocated, after some time they are merging actually. They are having more or less similar performance. And this is the break point, you can say. This is the point which we want to achieve, this knee, right? Because this is the best point, you can see. So with page, you can see mostly that frames, number of frames equal to 8. They are giving better. Optimal is the best, definitely, but clock is better in that sense. So of course, this is one one experiment that was done, and not necessarily that it will behave only in this fashion, but this graph will be very similar to this. The exact number may be changing, but the graph will be very similar. So in these 4 cases, in these 4 policies, you can see optimal is not possible to implement. LRU is very complex to implement, though FIFO is very simple to implement. But if we want to compromise LRU between LRU and FIFO, we can use clock policy, which is some kind of compromise between LRU and FIFO, because that is possible to implement in a better way than LRU. There is another modification that can be done in this clock policy. Instead of only using 1 bit, that is use bit, you can also use 2 bits. Use bit and modify bit. Modify bit is already there. If you remember your page table entry, modify bit is always there. And you have now 4 combination. Use bit is 0, modified bit is 0, U equal to 1, M equal to 0, U equal to 0, M equal to 1, and 1, 1. These are the 4 possible values. Now, what is the meaning? U equal to 0, M equal to 0 means, M equal to 0 means it is not modified after loaded. Once it was loaded, it is not modified. And U equal to 0 means it is not recently used. Here it is recently used, but it is not modified. It is not recently used, but it is modified. And it is modified as well as recently used. That is the meaning of this 4 combinations. So what is the idea with these 2 bits? So there are 3 steps basically. First, scan the buffer from current position, like we did it in the normal clock policy. You start scanning the buffer in a circular fashion from the current position. Don't modify that use bit that we did in the simple clock policy. Normally what we did, when we scan, we changes the use bit from 1 to 0, but we don't do it here. In the first scan, we don't modify this use bit. We don't change that use bit. We are actually looking for the frame with U equal to 0 and M equal to 0, because that can be the best candidate to be replaced, because it is not modified as well as it is not recently used. That is the meaning. So you try to find such frame which has U equal to 0 and M equal to 0. Let's say you have scanned all frames, but you didn't get any frame with this 2 bits equal to 0. So if the step 1 scan fails, now you need to scan this again. And now this time you look for a frame with U equal to 0 and M equal to 1. Now, when in the second step, as you move forward, you are also resetting the use bit. If U equal to 1 for that frame, you change it to 0. And try to find frame with these 2 values. By chance, if second scan fails, then repeat step 1 and try to find U equal to 0, M equal to 0. If that is also not found, try to find again U equal to 0, M equal to 1. Okay, so repeat step 1 and 2. If second step fails, repeat step 1 and 2 again, and you will surely find some frame for that. Because you must be set to 0. You must have set to 0 in second step. So what is the core of this algorithm? I mean, this modification. Find a page that has not been accessed and modified recently. That is the meaning of this. Try to find such page. If this fails, find the page that has been modified but not accessed recently. That is using principle of locality. Then that is the second step. In second step, you also start setting u equal to 0. And even if in second step you don't find such frame, repeat step 1 and 2. What are the advantages of this modified clock policy? Unchanged pages given preferences. Unchanged pages means where I am equal to 0, not modified. Those pages will be given preferences. And why we are giving preferences to those pages? Because if you are replacing a page which has been modified, then first you need to write that page in secondary memory and then you can replace it. Because what the page, whatever changes you have made there, first you need to save those changes on the secondary memory. Then only you can remove that, you can replace that. So if you have a page which is not recently used and not modified, then it is a best candidate. And it is going to save your time because you need not to write that page onto the secondary memory. So basically these are the 4 algorithms which are given in your book that we have discussed. Any question up to this point? Okay. Now there is a concept of page buffering. And what is that concept and why we use it? So LRU and clock policies both involve complexity and overhead. Definitely. There is some overhead. Like in clock policy, you need to scan. And in improved clock policy, you need to scan. Maybe you need to scan multiple times. So some kind of complexity and overhead are there. And also replacing a modified page is more costly than the unmodified page, as it needs to be returned to the secondary memory. So what is the solution? FIFO cannot be directly used because it is way simpler and not giving good performance. So one solution is you use FIFO with page buffering. What is the problem with FIFO? What is the problem with FIFO replacement policy? Can anyone tell me? What is the basic problem with FIFO policy? The basic problem with FIFO policy is it is blindly replacing the page which is there in the queue for the longest time. But it is quite possible that the page which is just replaced may be used in the very near future, maybe reference in the near future. So you need to, it will increase the page faults. So the solution is use simple FIFO with page buffering. So replacement algorithm is simple FIFO, but replaced pages are still maintained in 2 types of list within main memory. So page that is just replaced, it is not removed from the main memory. It is still maintained in the main memory in 2 different lists. One is free page list. So when a page is replaced and it is not modified, the page that you have just replaced and it is not modified, it is appended at tail of this list. This frame is free. This frame is free. If required, it can be overwritten. Fine. If required, this frame can be overwritten. Otherwise, the page which was there, it is still there, but it is considered as a free frame. And modified page list, where a page is replaced and it is modified, it is added at this list. It means this page, before it can be overwritten by any other page, it needs to be written to the secondary memory. But what is the idea to club all these modified pages in one list? Because now you can write these pages in a bulk in the secondary memory, and that is always a good idea, because when you need to write to the secondary memory or read from the secondary memory, do it in a bulk. It will save your time. And replaced pages are not removed. And the point is, whether it is in the free page list or modified page list, these replaced pages are not removed from the main memory. There is a special, you can say, part of the main memory which is only utilized for maintaining this list. Okay, these pages are not removed from memory. Just their entries are removed from the page table. Now they are not part of the page table, but they are still there in the frame. But as they are maintained, and if in near future, if it is required, it did not to load that from the secondary memory. You can directly use it from this 2 list. So what is the advantage of page buffering? If the process refers to a page just replaced, it can be fetched quickly. Modified pages can be written out in batches, which will save your time. And this basically, this acts as a cache. Buffer, when we say, it is kind of cache. Now there is a point, there is another topic that we need to discuss is resident set management. Now, first of all, I hope you remember what is resident set. Resident set is nothing but those pages of the process which are in the main memory. That creates a resident set. So the OS must decide how many pages should be brought into main memory. That is one design issue. Okay. OS need to decide how many pages should be brought into main memory. The smaller the amount of memory allocated to each process, the more processes that can reside in memory. That is very simple. If you allocate small number of pages to every process, definitely you can accommodate more processes. But small number of pages loaded increases page faults. So if for every process you have very small number of pages which are loaded, then definitely it is going to increase page faults because it is referring those pages which are not in the main memory. But beyond a certain size, further allocation of pages will not affect the page fault rate. So for an example, up to, let's say, some value n, you are increasing this pages that are allocated to process because page faults are very high. So you decided that let me allocate more pages, more frames to this process. But after certain size, beyond a certain size, further allocation of these pages will not affect the page fault rate. And all these lines that are written here in the book, they are based on experiments and analysis. So again, the question was how many pages should be brought into the main memory. So how many frames should be allocated? So there are two possible ways: fixed size allocation and variable allocation. What is fixed allocation? Gives a process a fixed number of pages within which to execute. So fixed number of pages is decided, and this is decided at load time based on process type. That okay, every process will be given this many frames. And there is another type of allocation, variable allocation. Number of pages allocated to a process varies over the lifetime of the process. Here, when process was loaded at that time, it is fixed. Okay, if it is this type of process, this many pages will be allocated. If this is this type of process, this many pages. So fixed allocation. And throughout the life of that process, it will be maintained. But in variable allocation, time to time, it may be changes. Process which is experiences higher page fault rate can be given more frames and less frames for processes with less PF. So with the time you analyze, if any process is experiencing more page fault rate, it means it requires more pages. So it will be given more pages. And if you have observed that some of the processes are having very less page fault rate, so you may reduce its page frames allocated to that process. And again, number of page frames allocated to a process, that is nothing but the resident set. That creates a resident set. So this is resident set size allocation. Now there are scope, replacement scope. What is replacement scope? The scope of a replacement strategy can be categorized as global or local. We have just discussed replacement strategy, optimal, FIFO, LRU, clock, right? So what is the scope? Scope is nothing but which page can be replaced. Global or local means, local means what? A local replacement policy chooses only among the resident pages of the process that generated the page fault. If P1 has generated page fault and you need to bring new page for P1, then you can replace any page of P1 only. You cannot replace page of any other process. That is local scope. And global is different. When you need to get new page in for some process, you can replace page of any other process also. That is global scope. So can anyone tell me the examples that we discussed, which type of replacement scope is used in this example? To discuss this example, which replacement scope we have used? Can anyone tell me?
Global.
Sorry? Someone answered that. I could not hear that. Can you repeat?
Global.
What is global scope? When page fault occurs, you can replace page of the same process only. You cannot replace page of any other process. That is local, and that is what we have used here. That is not global. Global means page of any other process can also be. This is nothing but the one particular process, which is allocated 3 frames. So this is fixed allocation with local scope replacements. Are you getting?
Yes.
So now you have 4 combinations: fixed allocation local scope, fixed allocation global scope, variable allocation local scope, and variable allocation global scope. These are the 4 combinations. Again, can you tell me which is not possible? Out of these 4, do you think that at least one is not possible? There is one combination which is not possible out of this 4. Fixed means what? Fixed allocation means once at load time, if it is decided that this process will have only this many frames throughout the life, it cannot be changed. If it is decided that it will have only 3 frames, throughout the life it can be 3 frames. You cannot add more or you cannot remove any of that. So fixed allocation global scope is not possible, because in global scope you may replace a frame of another process also, but that process is having fixed allocation. So you cannot get a frame from that process and reduce its resident side. That is not possible. So fixed allocation global scope is not possible. But otherwise, let us discuss other scopes. Fixed allocation local scope. It decides ahead of time the amount of allocation to give a process. Ahead of time, it will be decided how many frames will be allocated. If allocation is too small, there will be high page fault rate. Very simple to understand. If allocation is too large, there will be too few programs in main memory. So again, how many frames are allocated? If it is too small, higher page fault rate. If it is too large, too few programs can be accommodated in main memory. So both has its own problems. And if you have too few programs in main memory, what is the problem? Increase processor idle time or increase swapping. Because it is possible that all of the processes in main memory, they are blocked and you need to do swapping very frequently, which will waste processor time basically. Then there is variable allocation global scope. See, we have skipped this because this is not possible. Now we are discussing this first, variable allocation global scope. So process with high page fault rate will grow in this resident set size. It is variable allocation. So if you see that some process is facing higher page fault rate, you allow more frames to be allocated to that process. So RSS will be increasing. RSS is resident set size. It is easiest to implement and adopted by many operating systems. So what operating system does, it keeps list of free frames. Free frame is added to resident set of process when a page fault occurs. And if there is no free frame, then replacement needs to be performed. And replacement, when it is performed, it is a global scope replacement. So replacement, when it is performed, it is global scope. Global scope means it can replace page of any other process also. But then the problem lies here, which page to be replaced. If there is no free frame, replacement is need to be performed. There is a global scope replacement. But then the point is, which page of which process can be replaced, should be replaced. And that is a difficulty. Of course, there can be some heuristic that you can use, but there is no optimal answer to that. So another one is variable allocation local scope. So when new process is added, allocate number of page frames based on application type, program request, or other criteria. Fine. When new process is added, based on some criteria, you allocate fixed number, some number of page frames. And when page fault occurs, select page from among the resident set of the process that suffers the fault. As it is local scope, whenever you need to do replacement, you will select a page from among the resident set of the processes. You cannot replace page of any other process. Reevaluate allocation. Now the point is, this is variable allocation. So you can increase or decrease page frames allocated, but that you do not at every page fault. That you don't do at every page fault. Rather, you reevaluate allocation from time to time. There is some fixed time that after 10 minutes, after 5 minutes, you will do that. And then you reevaluate, and if required, you just check what is the page fault rate for this process. If it is high, you may allocate more frames. If it is low, you may reduce some of the, you may remove some of the frames. And this reevaluation and then changing it makes it little complex, but it is better in performance. So this is the summary of the same thing that we just discussed. This is the summary of the things that we just discussed. Any question up to this point? Now, the biggest question, fine, all this variable allocation, fixed allocation, global, local scope, that's okay. But the point is how you will decide the resident set size. On what basis? On what basis you will decide resident set size? So one of the popular method for deciding resident set size is working set method. What is working set? W, which is a function of T and delta, is the set of pages of the process referenced in last delta time units as a specific time T. So at time T, okay, you find out what are the set of pages in last delta time units which are referred by this process, that is forming the working set. For example, so let's say at time T1, specific time T1. At time T1, you have noticed that in last delta time units, now this time unit is not actual time unit, it is virtual time unit. Every page reference increases your time unit, that is virtual time. Whenever page reference happens, that is called one time unit, and it is virtual time unit. So in this, how many time units you are considering as delta? This is delta, which is nothing but previous time units. How many time units are there? Because this is nothing but the page number which are referred. So at time T1, you are checking all these page references. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So total 7 page references. So total 7 time unit. So delta is 7. Delta is 7. You can see that. So at time T1, in previous 7 time units, how many pages are referred? So there are some repetition. So you can finally create a set. Set does not contain duplicate values. I hope you remember that. Set does not contain duplicate values. So remove duplicate values and it is giving you that these pages are referred in last 7 page references. So at time T1, you have noticed that these 5 pages are referred in last 7 virtual time units. Okay, give me a break. Similarly, at this example, at time T2, it is referring since last, excuse me, it is referring last 4 time units, and those 4 time units, it has referred 4 different pages. So this is working set for delta equal to 7 at time t1. This is the working set at delta equal to 4 at time t2. Are you getting this? What is working set? So this delta defines the window size. It is called window size. Large window size may result in larger working set. It is very simple to understand. If you use this large window size, it means you are considering large time virtual time units, then definitely you may have more page referred. So this is going to be large. Less window size, quite possible that number of pages which are referred are less. So large window size may result in larger working set. And during a specific period of time, working set may remain same. And this is interesting. During a specific period of time, working set may remain same because continuously your process is referring same set of pages because of principle of locality. So it is possible that during some period, it is going to be constant. This working set is a function of time. If more pages are referenced during a period of time, working set will grow in the size. So this is shown here. And these lines that you see here, they are transient period. They are transient. It means principle of locality if you use. So locality is now being changed. Currently your program was referring page 1 to 5 only for some time. Then suddenly it has now changed and it is going to another pages, maybe another set of pages. Let's say 10 to 9, 15, suppose. So in that case, this working set will be increasing. So initially the number of pages referenced is very high. Process should stabilize later due to principle of locality. But once required pages are there, then this will become stable. But this locality will be shifted to a new locality after some time and working set size again increases. Again, it decreases as only the pages of new locality are kept. So following schemes can be used to apply working set method. Monitor working set of each process. Periodically remove the pages which are not in working set. A process can only be executed if its working set is present in main memory. So what are the issues with working set method? Past does not always predict future. Okay. Whatever, see, basically what is working set method? At particular instance, you check what are the pages which are referenced in the past. Okay. And you keep that as a working part of working set. And your resident set must contain that working set pages. Then only your process can execute. But it is possible that the working set that you are maintaining, definitely you are maintaining it is based on past, because in past, which pages are referred, and that you keep it in your working set. But not necessarily that past is going to predict the future. In future, you may be referring different pages than those pages which you have referred in past. So that is one problem. Overhead involved in measurement of working set. Definitely there is some overhead, there is some extra time that you need to allocate to measurement of this working set, and finding optimal value of delta is difficult. Okay, in past, for how many time units you will find out the page references, how you will use page references for how many time units in past. That delta value is difficult to find. Optimal delta value is difficult to find. You can take some value based on some guess, but then it is not possible to find optimal value for that. So there are some issues with this method. There is another method called page fault frequency approach. Instead of focusing on the pages which are referenced in the past, let us focus on the page fault rate of the process. If page fault rate is above some threshold value, resident set size should be increased. Simple. Don't focus on working set. Okay, rather focus on page fault rate. If page fault rate is about certain threshold value, simply increase the resident set size. If it is below certain threshold, resident set size should be decreased. So what is this algorithm? PFF algorithm. First of all, assign a use bit for each page in main memory. It is like clock policy, where we use this use bit. So every page has use bit and it is assigned to the every page in main memory. Use bit is set to 1 whenever a page is accessed, whether it is loaded for the first time or it is referred. Whenever it happens, this use bit equal to 1. At the time of page fault, the time since last page fault is calculated. Now you do one thing. Whenever page fault occurs, you find out when it was last happened for this process, when the last page fault happened for this process. You find out that time. If that is less than threshold value, if that t, so there is a small time between two page faults. If it is below threshold, it means page fault occurs very quickly. So in that case, add a page to the resident set of process. Don't replace any page. Simply add new page to your resident set. Else, shrink the resident set of processes. Discard pages with use bit equal to 0. Okay, when you need to shrink, it means you need to free some of the pages. Which pages you will free? With the use bit equal to 0. And reset use bits of all other pages from 1 to 0. There is again problem with this policy also. This approach does not work well during shift of locality. Currently it is working, let's say, currently it is using pages only from 1 to 5 because of principle of locality. But when it starts shifting from locality 1 to 5 to, let's say, 7 to 10, then page fault will increase. And in that case, you will simply increase the resident set size, which is actually not required. So there is some solution on this also. VSWS, that is variable interval sampling working set. Though we are not going to discuss, it is very briefly given in your book. If you want, you can read that. So basically, this is all about resident set management. Resident set management, it includes the answer to this question: how many pages should be brought into main memory? Basically, that is the answer that we are looking for. And for that, we discuss fixed allocation, variable allocation, different scope, local and global scope. And then we discuss working set method. Then we discuss PFF. And if to solve this PFF, again, there is another method, VSWS, variable interval sampled working set. It is based on working set, but it is a modified version of working set, you can say. So that was about resident set management. Then there is another policies that we need to discuss on the cleaning policy. Another policies that we need to discuss is cleaning policy. A cleaning policy is concerned with determining when a modified page should be written out to secondary memory. Now we know that there are some pages that which are going to be replaced, but before they will be replaced, they need to be written out to the secondary memory because they are changed. So like it is reverse to that fetching. I hope you remember fetch policy we discussed. Demand paging and pre-paging. Similarly, this cleaning is the reverse to that. When you will write your page to the secondary memory, so that can be two policies: demand cleaning and pre-cleaning. Demand cleaning is a page is written out only when it has been selected for replacement. Whenever page is going to be replaced, just before that it will be written out to secondary memory. But that requires two page transfers. Writing dirty means modified. Writing dirty page to the secondary memory and reading new page. So two memory references are required. There is another policy called pre-cleaning. Pages are written out in batches before their frames are needed. Okay, before you need to replace those pages, you may have some periodic process. What it does, periodically it finds out those pages which are modified and it simply writes those pages to the secondary memory in batches. And you are not waiting for that page to be replaced. In future, it may be replaced, but then periodically you find all such pages which are modified and you write it to the secondary memory in batches. So these are two main policies: demand cleaning and pre-cleaning. Best approach uses page buffering, but then both of them are having their own problem. Here, two page transfer are required, which is time consuming. Another problem here is, while you are writing these modified pages to the secondary memory, maybe they are changed again because still they are there in the memory. So when you are writing these modified pages to the secondary memory, they are again changed and you may need to write them again. So definitely it is going to waste the time. So both are having their own problem. So what is based approach? Based approach uses page buffering. So now what you can do, you can decouple cleaning and replacement. Here in demand cleaning, what we do, when we need to replace the page, at that time, first we will write it to the second memory and then replace. Can we decouple this? So that is the idea. Decouple cleaning and replacement. Replace pages are placed into two lists. Again, there are two lists, modified and unmodified. Pages in the modified list are periodically written out in batches. Pages in the unmodified list are either reclaimed if referenced again or lost when its frame is assigned to another page. So that is cleaning policy. Then there is a load control. Now load control is very simple. It is basically trying to balance out that how many processes can be there. So determines the number of processes that will be resident in main memory, the multi-programming level basically. If too few processes, many occasions when all processes will be blocked and much time will be spent in swapping. If too many processes, it will lead to thrashing. I hope you remember thrashing. Frequently page faults occurs. That is called thrashing, right? And then there is something called process suspension. If the degree of multi-programming is to be reduced, one or more of the currently resident processes must be suspended or swapped out. Suspended means swapped out. And there are 6 possibilities exist. Which process you will suspend? You may suspend lowest priority process. That is simple idea. Or faulting process. The process which has created this page fault, it requires new page. So while it is waiting for new page, let's suspend this process. So this process does not have its working set in main memory, so it will be blocked anyway. Process activated long time ago. The process which was activated long time ago. This process is least likely to have its working set resident. Whatever pages are required, they are may not be there in resident set size. So you may suspend this process. Or you may suspend process with smallest resident set. This process requires the least future effort to reload, as it has not loaded much pages. In future, when you need to reload this process, very few pages you need to reload. So you can use this as an option to suspend a process. Or you can suspend largest process, which will make more free frames, or process with the largest remaining execution window. So the process, basically it is suspending that process which is still have long way to go before it can complete. So basically this process, when you suspend, it is favoring shortest time remaining processes. So there are 6 different possibilities. Based on your requirement, you can use any of this process to suspend. So these are the design issues in virtual memory. When you implement virtual memory, what are the operating system design issues that we have discussed? So now if I can show you this figure. This one, key design elements. We discussed fetch policy, which is demand paging and pre-paging. Placement policy, not much important because it is mostly important when you use pure segmentation, but normally we use paging with segmentation. So this is not, this does not have that much importance. Replacement policy we discuss in detail, optimal, LRO, FIFO, and clock. We also discuss the modified clock, and we discuss page buffering with FIFO. Then we discuss resident set management, that is resident set size, fixed and variable, resident replacement scope, global and local. And then we discuss how they work together. And then we discuss working set method, PFF, and though we have not discussed VSWS, okay, but it is there. Cleaning policy, we just discussed demand and pre-cleaning, and then load control, degree of multi-programming. So these are the design elements. From the operating system, you require some support regarding this design elements. Okay, and that is what we discuss. So hardware and control structure, we discuss paging and segmentation. And in OS support, we discuss these things. So with this, your virtual memory chapter is over. Now we have time. If you have any question, you can ask before I start new lecture. I'm not going to start new chapter today. I'll be starting it on Wednesday. And I think we have this 2 weeks only, right? This week and next week. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
So let's do one thing. Give me 2 extra lectures on these 2 Fridays, this Friday and next Friday. I'll take 2 extra lectures and I'll see how much I can complete. Otherwise, I may take some extra lectures after that. When you have your final exam? Anyone? Would you please reply? When do you have your final exam?
Sir, first week of December.
Oh, so it is immediately after this. Okay, so let me see. Let me reshape this. Still, we have 2 major topics to be discussed. One is IO and another is file management, which requires at least 4 lectures. So 2 lectures in this week, I'll complete IO. Next week, 2 lectures, I'll complete file. We will have 1 more lecture where we will discuss some other topics. Let me see how much I can complete. So maybe in between, if required, I'll take some extra lecture before this 4th December. If required, I'll take some extra lecture. Okay. Should we start with the new chapter? What do you say? We have 15 minutes at least. So we can start with that, right? Let me do that. Okay, so next chapter is on IO management and disk scheduling. And we are going to discuss specific IO device, that is disk, and what is scheduling mechanism used for that. So this is a roadmap. First, we'll discuss a little bit about IO devices. I hope today we will be able to complete at least this part, IO devices. And that is not much in detail actually. It is like very kind of overview. So categories of IO devices. Basically, this is the difficult area of OS design. It is difficult to develop a general and consistent solution due to a wide variety of devices and applications. Now, if you look around, different types of IO devices are there. Okay. But broadly, we can put them in 3 categories: human readable IO devices, machine readable, and communication IO devices which are doing communications. So what is human readable? These are the devices used to communicate with the user. And some examples like printers, terminals. Okay, terminals means video display, keyboard, mouse. These are the human readable. Human can directly interact with that IO devices. Then machine readable. Basically, these are the devices which are used to communicate with electronic equipment like disk drivers, USB keys, sensors, controllers, actuators. We do not directly interact with this. Machine interact with this. And finally, communication, used to communicate with remote devices like modems and digital line drivers. So these are a few equipment, and these are the IO equipment that we can put into these 3 categories. So what is difference in these IO devices? What things are different? There are a number of areas in which these IO devices are different. First is data rate. With what speed it can transfer data, that is data rate. Application. What is the application of this device? Complexity of control. How complex it is to control some device. Unit of transfer. In what is the unit of data transfer? Data representation. I hope you remember that different data representation is used. Okay. Big Endian, little endian is one of the example for communication. What kind of error conditions are there? So these are the some areas where these IO devices are different. And this is one example. Data rate. Typical IO device is data rate. You can see that. Gigabit Ethernet is having the highest rate. Then graphics display, hard disk, Ethernet, optical disk, right? Scanner, laser printer, floppy disk, modem, mouse, and keyboard. These are the typical data rates. If we talk about application, disk, for example, disk used to store files requires file management software. And that is the topic of, that is our next topic. After this, we will discuss file management. So you know that in Windows, if you are using Windows, there is NTFS. In Linux, you are using EXTs, ext3, ext4. These are the file systems, right? That is our topic, which we will be discussing after this. So disk used to store files. It requires file management software. Disk used to store virtual memory pages needs special hardware and software to support it. We have just seen that in the last virtual memory chapter. Terminal used by system administrator may have a higher priority. So you can see these are some different applications of different devices. Again, there is nothing much to discuss. If we talk about complexity of control, a printer requires relatively simple control interface, but a disk is much more complex. If you compare controlling complexity of printer and disk, definitely it is two different things. This complexity is filtered to some extent by the complexity of IO module that controls the device. See, if I ask you to handle disk directly without using OS, okay, it is not that simple. Printer, definitely it is quite simple when you compare it with the disk. So disk handling through OS becomes simple because that OS contains some IO modules which can deal with that disk. And that is how it becomes simple for you. Otherwise, it is quite complex. What is the unit of transfer? Data may be transferred as a stream of bytes or characters, okay, or in a larger blocks. When there is disk transfer, it is in a block. But when it is between memory and cache, and that is can be a stream of bytes or characters, terminal and IO. Data representation is another area. Different data encoding schemes are used by different devices, including differences in character code and parity conventions. So this is all about physical layer. And then error condition. The nature of errors differ widely from one device to another. These aspects include the way in which they are reported, how these errors are reported by the device. What are the consequences of those errors and the available ranges of responses? What should be the response to that error? So for every device, it can be different. So that is little bit about IO devices, how they are different. Then organization of the IO function. Okay, let me see how much it is. Let us stop at this point because this is going to take some time. Fine. So we'll continue with this organization of the IO function in the next lecture. And I'll try to finish as much as possible in the next lecture so that we need not to take more extra lecture than those two. Okay. Because this IO buffering and disk scheduling, especially disk scheduling, is a big topic, and that is important topic by GATE perspective also. Fine. So we'll do that also.